Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any of our platforms. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso at thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today, we're discussing a watch that launched in 2017 as the thinnest automatic watch in the world at the time. This is the Piaget Altiplano Ultimate in white gold, 41 millimeters in diameter. I measure it at 4.5 millimeters thick. With any pressure on my calipers, I could have compressed it to the claimed 4.3 millimeters, but I don't like to do that on a super thin watch, and I'll tell you why in a moment. 45.2 millimeters from lug tip to lug tip. It has a surprisingly broad and modern 21 millimeter spacing between the lugs. Now, let's be honest, a 9 millimeter watch twice as thick as this is still fairly thin for an automatic. At 4.5 millimeters, this is otherworldly. And you can see it actually sits lower than my wrist hair. This watch will fit underneath any cuff. And as you can see, it's not super broad across the wrist. So I could recommend it for a wrist as small as 14 centimeters in circumference. I'll show you one more time down the barrel. You can see the strap flares outboard, so there's still quite a bit of additional room. Otherwise, the strap would pull straight down if I were borderline. 14 centimeters circumference, batter up. You're going to love this watch. The strap is super thin, large rectangular scale, symmetrical scale alligator leather, so a fairly expensive cut of the material. It features a folded edge, a monotone stitch, medium blue on the bottom. You can see calfskin, probably made by Camille Fournet in France, an OEM supplier to a lot of Richemont Group companies. Brand new Piaget strap. You can see it is a matching Piaget white gold pin buckle, and it says Piaget on the side. Since the 50s, Piaget has been synonymous with manufacture movements and ultra-thin watchmaking, and it continues. This watch is blade-like. You can see that the lugs are spare, thrusting, and angular. The case is unconventional in that the case back itself is the base plate of the caliber 910P. So it's actually the base onto which the jewels, for example, are directly pressed. And the pivots actually sit on the other side of this disc, which is also part of the movement. Extraordinary stuff. You can also see the unconventional assembly of the watch with lateral screws holding the case together rather than screws set purely through the case back. You can see there's a combination of both involved in the assembly of this watch, and you can see that the case back has almost been shrink wrapped around the stem assembly right here. We have a Piaget branded crown, a broad flat polished bezel, and then we have a sapphire crystal that is about 1/5 of a millimeter thick. Now, you may not notice at first glance, but this is an automatic winding watch. Check that 910P. You see how it slides around? 1/2 of this peripheral rotor is actually blue. Piaget, corporate blue, that is their corporate color, so you can see it more easily in motion. It is a brilliant system that allows the winding system and the rotor to be in the same plane, not only as the rest of the bridges, but as the dial itself is sunken below the bridges, the rotor is in the same plane as the dial. Now, the reason the dial is sunk below the tops of the bridges is because if any pressure on the sapphire causes it to flex downward, it will contact the bridges before it contacts the hands. That's why the dial is actually recessed right here, and the hands with it. You can see that the movement is basically open for the world to see. The winding system's at upper right. It's been open wrought, so you can see the train from the barrel all the way down to the balance. It beats away at 21,600 vibrations per hour, and quite impressively, I have to say, it's got a 48 to 50 hour power reserve, so no compromise there, really. All of this pivoting on 32 joules. The rotor is made of 22 karat white gold, and it actually pivots on ball bearings with ceramic ball bearings used to make the winding system seamless, efficient, and low maintenance. And there is a little bit of a cost to having a case back that is also a base plate, which is that the watch has 20-meter water resistance rather than the industry standard of 30 for a dress watch. But either way, it's splashing while washing your hands. It's inadvertent exposure to rain. You can see that the finish is quite estimable. It's about what you would get from the likes of Jaeger-LeCoultre or Audemars Piguet, which is to say high horology. And with a retail price over $35,000, this is a high horology ultra-thin watch. You can see screw heads are black polished. There's a lovely solarization across all the bridges. You can see it expands out from the center of the dial. And then we have wheels that have been silvered and satinated, and you can see underneath the ratchet wheel, we've actually got media blast, so there is a diversity of finish. One of the most impressive automatic watches I've ever experienced from any brand. It may no longer be a record holder, but it has that feather in its cap of once having been, and it still has the otherworldly quality of being about as thick as 2.5 nickels, US 5-cent coins stacked atop each other. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.